My red cell count had dumped, but we're not doing medical center, so...
Yeah.
But I feel pretty darn good, actually. And yeah. I must tell everybody, thank you. Tremendous mail response and people with...
I read, somebody said something like...
Michael Landon, an iconic actor whose handsome features and effortless charm captured the hearts of millions, led a life filled with both fame and hidden pain. Known for his captivating presence on screen, often exuding confidence and strength, Landon's personal journey was far more complex. Beneath the polished exterior, tragedy and heartache marked his years, a truth known only to those closest to him. Now, 33 years after his passing, his daughter courageously steps forward, revealing the sorrowful events that shaped his life and the man behind the iconic roles we remember. Let's dive into the untold story through her eyes. Michael Landon, a life shaped by hardships and resilience. Michael Landon, an actor synonymous with wholesome family entertainment, was born Eugene Morris Orowitz on October 31st, 1936, in Forest Hills, New York. His path to stardom, however, was far from the smooth trajectory often associated with Hollywood legends. Landon's life was marked by a series of hardships, beginning with his tumultuous childhood, an environment filled with emotional and physical abuse, profound loss, and a quest to forge his own identity despite overwhelming odds. A tumultuous childhood, bullying, and a troubled home life. Growing up in a world that rejected his mixed heritage, Landon's early years were fraught with struggles that would shape the man he became. Being half Jewish in a largely non-Jewish society, Landon faced relentless bullying from his peers. His classmates, not understanding or accepting his mixed ethnicity, subjected him to cruel taunts and exclusion. This bullying left deep emotional scars and cultivated a sense of anger and insecurity in the young boy. Landon's self-esteem, already fragile due to the bullying, was further chipped away by the atmosphere at home. His mother, Peggy O'Neill, was emotionally abusive and deeply controlling, directing her anger not only towards Michael, but also his father, Eli Orowitz, a prominent actor in his own right. The emotionally charged home environment made Landon's childhood even more painful. His mother's sharp criticisms and manipulative behavior left him with little solace. Cheryl Landon Wilson, Michael's daughter, provides a window into this painful period of his life in her book, I Promised My Dad. She describes her grandmother's behavior as cruel, noting how Peggy's dominance in the household created an environment full of tension and discomfort. Michael's father, though well-meaning, was ultimately unable to protect his son from his wife's emotional cruelty. Eventually, Eli grew weary and disengaged from the household strife, leaving Michael to fend for himself. The retreat into solitude, crafting a vision of independence. As a result of these painful circumstances, Michael Landon withdrew into himself. A quiet, introspective child, he retreated into his imagination, constructing an identity separate from the tumultuous environment that surrounded him. This internal world became his refuge. Within it, Landon could escape the cruel taunts of his peers and the overbearing authority of his mother. In this world of solitude, Landon began to envision a different future, one that didn't rely on the toxic relationships of his home life. His love for storytelling, which would later manifest in his acting career, began to take root here. While other children might have struggled with such adversity, Landon's ability to dream and retreat into his thoughts gave him a source of strength. It also marked the beginning of a pattern that would define his adult life, the pursuit of independence and self-reliance. The challenge of entering Hollywood, a humiliating setback. Despite his difficult upbringing, Landon harbored dreams of making it in the entertainment industry. But these aspirations would not come easily. Early on, his father tried to leverage his connections in Hollywood to help Landon secure a job in Los Angeles through RK Radio Pictures. This act of support, however, turned into an embarrassing setback. When Landon and his father arrived at the studio, they were met by a stern security guard who refused them entry, making it clear that no favor would be granted. This incident, chronicled by People magazine, was a humbling moment for both father and son. Not only did it showcase the limitations of even the most well-placed connections, but it was also a stark reminder of the harsh realities of Hollywood. The experience left a lasting impression on Landon. He realized that if he wanted to succeed, it would have to be on his own terms. He would not rely on his father's connections or anyone else's help. Determined to carve his own path, Landon resolved to pursue his dreams without relying on the goodwill of others. This decision, though born out of necessity, would become a guiding principle for Landon throughout his life. The serendipitous start of an acting career. Although Landon never originally set out to become an actor, life had other plans. In a twist of fate, Landon found himself working at a ribbon factory in the mid-1950s. It was here, amid the humdrum of factory life, that he was approached by a colleague who needed help with an audition for Warner Brothers. Though acting was far from his mind at the time, Landon agreed to assist, and in doing so, found himself unexpectedly captivated by the world of Hollywood and performance. However, as with many young actors, the realities of making a living while pursuing a passion soon became apparent. Landon knew he needed to sustain himself while exploring this newfound interest. To make ends meet, he took a job at a gas station, strategically located near Warner Brothers studios. This move wasn't just about earning a paycheck, it was a calculated decision to immerse himself in the heart of Hollywood, hoping that proximity to the studios would provide him with the opportunities he so desperately needed. His gamble paid off. One day, while working at the gas station, Landon was noticed by an executive who saw something in him. Impressed by his looks and demeanor, the executive encouraged him to pursue formal acting training. With newfound motivation, Landon took the executive's advice to heart and enrolled in acting classes to refine his craft. The reinvention, adopting a new identity. In many ways, Landon's journey to stardom was about reinvention. As he studied acting, he also sought to reinvent himself. Landon's real name, Eugene Orowitz, didn't seem to fit the image of the confident, charismatic actor he was trying to become. So, in an act of symbolic transformation, he chose a new name. Michael Landon, taken from a name in the phone book, became the identity that would propel him into Hollywood. Landon's decision to adopt this new persona was more than just about changing his name. It represented his commitment to leaving behind the painful past and fully embracing the possibilities of a new future. It was an act of liberation, shedding the burdens of his childhood and the weight of his family's troubles in favor of the new man he was becoming. The struggles and setbacks, persevering against the odds. Even with his new name and growing sense of purpose, Landon's journey to success in Hollywood was anything but smooth. The world of acting is notoriously competitive, and Landon faced numerous setbacks and rejections along the way. He auditioned tirelessly, often landing minor roles and bit parts that did little to advance his career. But through each failure, Landon's resolve only grew stronger. He was determined to prove himself and carve out a place for himself in Hollywood. Despite his perseverance, success didn't come overnight. He continued to take whatever roles he could, even if they seemed insignificant, believing each one was a stepping stone towards a greater opportunity. Landon's resilience and unwavering commitment to his craft were qualities that would define him throughout his career. Breaking through, the role of Little Joe Cartwright. It wasn't until the mid-1950s that Landon's hard work began to pay off. His first major breakthrough came with the role of Little Joe Cartwright in the beloved Western television series Bonanza. Landon's portrayal of the young and charismatic son of the Cartwright family made him a household name. Alongside his co-star Dan Blocker, who played his brother Hoss, Landon helped define the dynamic of the show, making Bonanza one of the most popular TV shows of the era. However, Landon's journey on Bonanza was marked by personal tragedy. During the 13th season of the show, tragedy struck when Dan Blocker suddenly died after complications from a routine gallbladder surgery. At just 43 years old, Blocker's death was a shock to the cast and crew. In the wake of this profound loss, Landon, despite his own grief, made it a point to inject humor into the set, helping to lift the spirits of his colleagues during the darkest of times. Yet, despite his attempts to maintain a sense of levity, the loss of Blocker was deeply felt, and it cast a shadow over the remaining years of Bonanza. The show continued for one more season before it was ultimately cancelled, but Landon's ability to navigate such sorrow with humor and grace solidified his reputation as a compassionate and resilient figure. Personal loss and grief. The death of his father. Landon's life was defined not just by professional successes, but by profound personal loss. In 1959, just as his career in Hollywood began to take off, Landon faced the sudden and unexpected death of his father. Eli Horowitz, whom Landon had both revered and struggled with, died of a heart attack while enjoying a normal day out. The shock of losing his father left Landon reeling, and it forced him to confront his own mortality. In the aftermath of his father's death, Landon wrestled with a deep sense of grief and fear. He found himself worried that he too might succumb to a similar fate. Yet, ever the optimist, Landon found a way to cope with his sorrow. Using humor as a shield, he would jokingly mimic the symptoms of a heart attack, even though it was clear he was struggling internally. Despite his grief, Landon took it upon himself to shoulder the financial and emotional burdens left by his father's passing. He arranged for his father's funeral, ensuring it was dignified, and committed himself to supporting his mother and sister through their own grief. Personal relationships. The struggles of marriage and family. Landon's personal life, much like his career, was marked by ups and downs. In 1956, just a few years into his Hollywood career, he married his first wife, Dodie Levy-Fraser. Together, they had 2 children, but their marriage proved to be short-lived, ending in divorce in 1962. Landon would later marry 3 more times, each relationship marked by its own challenges and difficulties. Despite his early heartbreaks in relationships, Landon was deeply devoted to his children. His commitment to fatherhood was something that would define him for the rest of his life. Even as his career continued to rise, Landon always prioritized his family, making it clear that they were his true source of strength and inspiration. Later years, health struggles, and the legacy of Little Joe. Despite his earlier triumphs in Hollywood, Landon's final years would be marked by both professional and personal struggles. In 1991, at the age of 54, Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The disease, one of the most aggressive forms of cancer, left Landon grappling with both the physical toll of his illness and the emotional weight of his impending mortality. Landon's battle with cancer was one of the most painful and public parts of his life. Despite undergoing chemotherapy and radiation, his health continued to deteriorate rapidly. Throughout this battle, Landon remained remarkably open with the public about his struggles, refusing to hide behind the veil of privacy that often cloaks celebrities in times of crisis. Throughout his illness, Landon's concern was not for himself, but for his family. He feared for the well-being of his children, wanting to ensure they would be taken care of after his passing. Despite the overwhelming nature of his illness, Landon's compassion for others remained undiminished. His death on July 1, 1991, at the age of 54, marked the end of an era for his family, his fans, and for Hollywood itself. Yet his legacy, defined by his resilience, compassion, and unflinching commitment to his craft, endures in the hearts of all who remember his remarkable story. Legacy, more than just an actor. Michael Landon's legacy is far more than the sum of his roles on screen. He was a man who faced immense personal challenges, from a troubled childhood to his battle with cancer, yet he never allowed these hardships to define him. Instead, he used them as fuel to shape a life defined by resilience, love, and laughter. Through his roles on Bonanza, Little House on the Prairie, and Highway to Heaven, Landon not only entertained millions, but also instilled in them a sense of hope and compassion. Landon's life was a testament to the power of perseverance in the face of adversity. It is this enduring spirit that continues to inspire fans and actors alike, and his legacy remains an integral part of American television history. Cheryl Landon Wilson, a princess and her father's protector. Michael Landon was a father who doted on his children, especially his daughter, Cheryl Landon Wilson. Cheryl often fondly recalled how she was treated like a princess in her father's presence. Their relationship was one of mutual admiration and respect, with Landon providing unwavering support throughout Cheryl's life. Michael's devotion to his children was undeniable, and this father-daughter bond was one of the most cherished aspects of his life. From the time she was young, Cheryl knew that she could always count on her father for guidance and love, something that would sustain her even in the darkest moments of her life. But Cheryl's relationship with her father would be tested when tragedy struck at the tender age of 19. While driving in Tucson, Arizona, she was involved in a horrific car accident that left her with life-threatening injuries. 3 lives were tragically lost in the crash, but Cheryl, despite her grave injuries, fought for survival. It was a traumatic event that would forever change her life. The car accident and the fight for survival. The aftermath of the accident left Cheryl fighting for her life. Her body was battered, her future uncertain, and the situation seemed grim. Doctors did not have much hope for her recovery. Cheryl slipped into a coma, a state that would last for 4 agonizing days. During this time, her father, Michael Landon, refused to leave her side. He became her unwavering source of strength, hope, and motivation. Landon, who had often been the protector, now found himself in a position where he had to fight for his daughter's life, with the same intensity he had once shown in his own battles on screen. He believed with all his heart that Cheryl would pull through, refusing to accept the pessimistic prognosis given by doctors. He knew she was a fighter, and he was determined to see her overcome this obstacle. In a deeply emotional interview on the 700 Club in 1982, Michael reflected on those harrowing days, recounting his faith in Cheryl's strength and his unshakable belief that she would recover. Cheryl, in turn, credited her father's support as a pivotal factor in her survival. In her reflections, she expressed how his constant presence, encouragement, and unwavering faith kept her going during those dark days. His words, his belief in her, became the lifeline she clung to as she battled to regain consciousness and rebuild her life. Melissa Gilbert, a daughter of the heart. Another significant relationship that defined Michael Landon's life was his connection with his co-star, Melissa Gilbert. Gilbert, who portrayed his daughter Laura Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie, came to see Landon not just as a co-worker, but as a father figure. The two forged a bond that transcended their on-screen roles, with Landon becoming a mentor and a trusted guide during Melissa's formative years. Their connection grew even deeper following the untimely death of Melissa's father in 1976, which left a void in her life that Landon stepped in to fill. The bond between Gilbert and Landon, a father-daughter. Dynamic. Melissa Gilbert often spoke about how Michael Landon's presence in her life provided the stability and support she desperately needed. As a young actress, Gilbert admired Landon not only for his impressive talent, but for his wisdom and kindness. He wasn't just a mentor to her on set, but also a protector, guiding her through the complexities of fame and life in the entertainment industry. Their relationship extended beyond the set of Little House on the Prairie, with the Landon family and the Gilbert family spending time together during annual vacations in Hawaii, where they would bond, share laughs, and make memories. But the harmony of their relationship was shattered in the late 1970s, when revelations of Landon's affair with his Little House on the Prairie co-star Cindy Cleric came to light. For Melissa, the news of the affair struck a devastating blow. She had seen Michael Landon as a father, someone who had always provided for her and cared for her like his own daughter. Learning of his infidelity was a betrayal that cut deep. In I Promised My Dad, Cheryl Landon Wilson poignantly described the shock felt by the entire Landon family, highlighting the strain the affair caused within their close-knit circle. The fallout and estrangement, reconciliation and reflection. For Gilbert, the affair was difficult to process. It not only marred the image she had of Landon, but also created a rift between them. According to Mental Floss, the affair left Gilbert grappling with a complex mix of emotions. The once close relationship between Gilbert and Landon began to fray, leading to a period of estrangement that lasted years. The communications between the two, once frequent and intimate, became distant and strained. After Little House on the Prairie ended, Gilbert distanced herself from Landon, and it wasn't until 1990 that they reconnected. Even in the years following their estrangement, Gilbert harbored no ill will toward Landon. In her later reflections, she expressed fond memories of Landon's generosity and warmth, describing him as a man of great talent and integrity. Despite the complexities of their relationship, Gilbert came to understand that Landon, like all people, was flawed. She would later speak of his profound impact on her life with warmth, appreciating the unique bond they shared, both on and off screen. The battle with cancer, Landon's final act of strength. In April 1991, Michael Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a devastating blow that would change the course of his life and legacy. The news of his illness came as a shock, not only to his family, but to his countless fans who had watched him grow from the young cowboy Little Joe Cartwright in Bonanza to the beloved Pa Ingalls in Little House on the Prairie. Despite the severity of his diagnosis, Landon maintained his characteristic strength and resilience. During an interview with Life magazine, Landon articulated his resolve in the face of his cancer diagnosis. He acknowledged the possibility that his battle could end in either victory or defeat, but he refused to let fear or despair take over. His commitment to his family and his unwavering belief in God gave him the courage to face his illness with dignity. Landon approached his fight with cancer the same way he approached his life, with determination and optimism. As the months passed, Landon's health began to deteriorate, and he explored various treatment options, including chemotherapy and experimental therapies. Despite the tremendous challenges he faced, Landon refused to give in. He was determined to live every moment to the fullest, cherishing the time he had left with his family. Landon's strength during this time was not just physical, but emotional. He found solace in his faith, expressing that he no longer feared death, as he trusted in a higher power. Miscommunication and regret. A family torn. As Michael Landon's battle with cancer progressed, a painful miscommunication occurred within his family. Cheryl Landon Wilson, in her heartfelt reflection, described the regret and anguish she felt when she realized that her father's final days were marred by the distance that had grown between them. Landon's partner, Cindy Cleric, had made promises regarding visitation arrangements, but the truth came too late. Landon's family was not able to spend the precious moments they wanted with him, and Cheryl was consumed by guilt and remorse over the missed opportunity to connect with her father. The miscommunication caused unnecessary pain during an already difficult time, and it haunted Cheryl in the years that followed. The realization that her father's last days were marred by unresolved issues weighed heavily on her heart. The final days, a legacy of love and peace. Michael Landon passed away in July 1991, just a few months after his diagnosis, at the age of 54. His death sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and deeply affected his family, friends, and fans. Landon's passing was a loss not just to the world of television, but to the hearts of everyone who knew him. Among the mourners was former President Ronald Reagan, who delivered a moving tribute to Landon's life and legacy. Reagan praised Landon for his indomitable spirit, remarking that his battle with cancer had touched the hearts of Americans and left a lasting impact on the nation. At Landon's funeral, more than 500 people gathered to pay their respects. Among them was Melissa Gilbert, who reflected on the complexity of their relationship, remembering him not just for his role as a mentor, but for his character as a man. Gilbert's tribute captured the essence of Landon's authenticity, his unwavering integrity, and his unshakable strength. Landon, she said, was so special and so basically good. Gilbert fondly remembered how, with Landon, One always knew exactly where they stood, a sentiment that reflected the transparency and honesty that defined their bond.